Hi, I'm Rick Higgins and welcome to my Around the World adventure. In today's episode, we're going to discuss what it's like to travel for 120 days straight, how you can afford it, what worked and, well, what didn't. And yeah, that's Barcelona behind me, in case you were wondering. Now, I have learned a lot about budget and expenses over the past 3 months, way more than I really wanted to. And mostly I've learned that I can't keep affording to do what I've been trying to afford to do. But lessons are learned the hard way, and sometimes lessons are good, as long as you actually learn from them. Oh, and for those of you who may be new here, my name is Rick. I quit my career of over 40 years to wander the globe. 4 countries so far, and I don't know how many yet to come, but that's all part of the adventure. Okay, but back to this video. After we get done comparing and contrasting the prices of all 4 countries, I'm gonna lay a big number on you, how much we've spent thus far for 3 months. And then you kind of extend that out to what it's gonna cost us for the entire planned year. And that's gonna be a really big, scary number. And coming in at #1 most expensive place, and no surprise here, Barcelona, Spain. For a city that I was going to move to back in 2020, Barcelona has become, well, it's tied for my least favorite place of this entire trip, as well as being the most expensive. Now, don't get me wrong, I do love Barcelona, despite the loud traffic that seems to be everywhere. But the other continents, I somehow liked more. So has Barcelona changed? Maybe a little bit. It does feel a little more anti-touristy, anti-traveler than it used to. But I think more importantly is I have changed. I'm not the same Rick in Barcelona that I was back in the day, and I'm still trying to process that. Big city life is expensive. Big city life in Barcelona is expensive. Our lodging is a very small room, about an hour and a half walk away from the center of the city, and we're paying $1,800 a month. And this room has a little kitchenette, a little refrigerator that went kaput and we had to have replaced. That's probably a story for later. Lodging here is very, very expensive. And I just did a video, it's gonna pop up somewhere, about, well, why Airbnb is not your best option, at least here. But regardless, even the previous times we were in Barcelona, it is a very expensive place to live. Food here is, well, it's high. Entrees are $15, $20 on average. That was really hot. Tapas are a little cheaper, beer is cheaper yet, but it is not an inexpensive place to spend any appreciable time. Now, don't get me wrong, there are ways of making this a lot cheaper. Something just popped into my head. We went down to a beach place called Sitges for a long weekend. It is a half-hour train ride from the center of Barcelona. I am a half-hour metro ride from the center of Barcelona up here. Prices down there are so much cheaper. It's almost worth it to go out of the city and pop back in for a day and then pop back out to a cheaper place to live. And the second least expensive of this trip so far, and I know I'm kind of going out of order, it'll make sense in a minute, Merida, Mexico. Merida. You all have called me out on not being able to pronounce it, and I still can't do it, so that's probably why I can't go back, because it's here. It's in the Yucatan. Living in the Yucatan Peninsula was great, and it was also not so great. It was probably not worth an entire month. Yeah, Merida, Mexico is a good place, and there's lots of jumping off points from there, but in itself, I'm not sure that a month was the best idea. But everything that's within a 30-minute trip away from Merida, oh my God, it's nice. The beaches, and hell, I even climbed a Mayan pyramid to the top. Have I ever mentioned that I have a fear of heights? Oh, no, what am I doing? Wow, I gotta show this to you. If you don't like heights, don't look down. Okay, let's start a discussion on expenses with something that most people probably wouldn't start with, and that's entertainment. There are so many things to do just outside of Merida, Mexico. Just a 30-minute Uber ride away, which, by the way, is really cheap. We're talking like a couple bucks just to go 30 minutes. Anyway, you can go out to the beaches. You can go out to the cenotes. Oh my God, you got to go out to the cenotes. There's also food. Food is incredibly inexpensive there. And that means whether you're going to the grocery store or whether you're going out to eat. In fact, it is so cheap going out to eat that you probably aren't going to want to go to the grocery store. And I got to tell you, the food there is absolutely a number one. It's the best food that I've had so far this entire 3 months. And it's not just because it's spicy, it's because it's fresh. Everything there, all the fruits and vegetables that you get, they're grown and picked right there. We're talking about expenses and I'm talking about food, and oh my God, my stomach is a-rumbling. One last thought on transportation, and that is the taxis. Yeah, you can take an Uber if you want to get outside of the city, but just getting around, it's very walkable, by the way. It's extremely walkable, despite the sidewalks maybe not being completely walkable. But the taxis are cheap. I mean so cheap that you want to tip the guy the same amount that he had on the fare, because you know he's not making any money off of that. And we're talking like $2. So you tip the guy $2 just to go across town. It's that kind of affordable. Coming in at a third least or most expensive, and the reason it is third is there is a little asterisk on top of it. Panama, it's there. Panama was number 3. Now, Panama is really hard to quantify, to describe, because we actually stayed at 3 different types of places. One, we stayed in a treehouse. Now, I would love to tell you where I am right now, but I don't remember the name of the town. I don't think it has one. Something like Caldera. Anyway, I got to show you where we slept last night and where we're sleeping tonight. And it's built like a giant acorn sitting on top of steel structures around a tree. For another, we stayed on stilts on a knot island over the water. There's nothing here. I am on a building on stilts over top of water. The island is over there, but you can't get to it. There are no roads, there are no paths, there's no trails. It's a big mosquito-infested island in the middle of all of this water. And finally, we stayed in a hostel with kind of a shared kitchen and our own little private room-ish, kind of. Hi. I mean, there's obviously no diving here, but... Oh, this is nice. Now, as far as nature opportunities, Panama was by far my favorite. There is just so many opportunities for hiking and for, you name it, it is out there. They have volcanoes, they have water, they have lakes, they have rivers, they have oceans, they have waterfalls. This hike is not for small children. It is not for family members over the age of I can't walk up a hill. This was arduous. This was a trek, but this was very much worth it. That was slippery. Here, let me clean you up. Ah! There we go. Oh, God, that's cold. There, you're officially behind the waterfall. And they also have some severe changes of elevation. Trust me, I mean, we're talking, it was a lot to deal with. Now, Panama also has the distinction of being a place that I very much would move to. Very much would like to make a home base, sort of to be able to go to other places from, to have that be, well, where we come home to. It's that kind of beautiful. Oh, and by beauty, I mean roads that really aren't roads, that look like they've been shelled with artillery. Anyway, it is a very beautiful place. You got to look past the man-made stuff, which is no longer man-made, and into the Mother Nature. Anyway. So lodging. Lodging was difficult because the first place we stayed that was on the water, we paid $231 for a week, which isn't too bad when you think about it. We also went to the treehouse, which was about $230 some for 2 days. And then back at the hostel, it was more or less the same price for about, I think it was 10 days. So overall, I'm counting lodging in Panama is running about $1,000 a month, the same as Mexico. And here's where the asterisk comes in. We had to rent a car because Panama is just spread out so far that we had no choice. We had to get a vehicle to take us around, and that cost us an extra $800. And coming in at the least expensive, and in an ironic twist of fate, my most favorite place of the trip thus far, Costa Rica. Yeah, I know it looks like I'm pointing at Panama, but I'm really pointing at Costa Rica, Puerto Viejo to be exact. And here's where things get all touchy-feely as part of our story. I mentioned earlier that I quit my career of over 40 years, and the reason I did that was because I was completely burned out. By that I mean very mentally unhealthy, dark place, all that usual nonsense. But it wasn't just, oh, Rick, you're so tired and depressed and sad, and maybe you should go have a a beer or something. It was mental health burnout. And so Costa Rica was my first destination. And it kind of showed. I was still in therapy, still trying to figure out what I was doing, what I needed to do. Still trying to do it, by the way. So a lot of the videos that I produced, a lot of what you saw from me in Costa Rica, well, it wasn't really what I was feeling. It was just the best that I could muster at the time. Now, this was not my first trip to Costa Rica. I've been there before, spent some serious time, and absolutely loved it. But that was up in the north. Puerto Viejo is Caribbean. It's down there on the water. It is... everything that you would think that I wouldn't like. I am a self-professed city boy. This is what I say that I like. And yet down there in that dusty, dirty, one-road little town, I found me. I should probably explain that, shouldn't I? The place is very inexpensive to live. For instance, we paid a little over $200 for basically 2.5 weeks. Granted, we were in a hostel, but our room was private. We had a kitchen. It had non-potable water, of course, but we were 30 steps away from a beach. And by beach, I mean a natural beach surrounded by forest that was just gorgeous. It was absolutely beautiful. And it was right there. The food was pretty good and very inexpensive. You didn't need a taxi. The entire town was a 1/4 mile long. So you were gonna walk it, because if you couldn't walk a 1/4 mile, well, maybe you should take a cruise ship. Hola, caña por favor, y bravas? Bravas. Okay, what have I spent so far on this trip? Well, we've talked about lodging, but when you add everything together, entertainment, transportation, airfare, entertainment, well, once you subtract the YouTube cost, because honestly, I don't think you care how much I've spent on YouTube so far this year. Okay, a little drum roll, please. The total cost for 3 months so far, 120 days, has been $22,000. And I'm going to do a little math for you. That's $7,337 a month. Now, obviously, that's not so great. Now, is it? But when you extend that out, we had planned on being on the road for 1 full year, just a year traveling around the globe. And if we continue on this burn rate, we're looking at about, how much was that? $90,000 for 1 year of travel, excluding those YouTube expenses. Now, honestly, that's pretty much what I had planned on, what I had budgeted for, but when you think about it, that's a stupid, ridiculous amount of money, especially when, if you look at my investments, and the market has not been my friend. Just last month alone, I lost 6% of my portfolio. This is not sustainable. What we are doing simply I cannot run, or we're not going to make it through the year. Got to find lots of ways of being much more frugal, which could make for some interesting video. I'm not going to be taking you on any yachts, obviously, over the next 9 months, but maybe I can take you on some things that are just as interesting and don't cost a whole lot of money. So that's what you have for expenses. Now, if you want to help a brother out, did you know that we have Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee? You know, I'm just throwing it out there for you, just in case you got a hankering. But in the meantime, we'll check back in a few months to see how we're doing, to see if the next 3 months are anything like the first 3 months. I'm hoping, dear God, I'm hoping I do a little better. And with that, be healthy, be happy, and we'll see you soon. And by the way, it's still going to be from Spain, just in a place that's a whole lot cheaper.